I was standing outside my flat in the sleepy town of Whitby, North Yorkshire, when the news broke. The sky was clear, the air crisp with the early November chill, and for once, the usual humdrum of daily life was pierced by something otherworldly. A strange object, unlike anything we'd seen before, was hurtling through our solar system, right between the well-known interstellar visitor, dubbed 3I Atlas, and Earth itself. I remember first hearing about 3I Atlas a few years back. It was this odd interstellar comet, the first of its kind, spotted by the amateur astronomer Jenny Bates up in Cornwall. Now, here we were again with something new, C25 V1 Borisov. It was named after the guy who discovered it, Matt Borisov, an eccentric astronomer from Devon. Unlike 3I Atlas, Borisov had no glowing tail, just a faint, smoky cloud trailing behind it. Some said it looked like a cigarette puff in space, but without the nicotine buzz. What made it even stranger was its position. Closer to the sun than 3I Atlas, it zipped across the sky with a trajectory that set off alarms in the scientific community. Theories flew around like seagulls over the harbor. Was it debris, a comet, or something else entirely? Meanwhile, I found myself glued to my second-hand telescope, trying to catch a glimpse. On the evening of November 6th, I set up my gear in the garden. The cold bit at my hands, but the sky was clear, perfect for stargazing. There, in the constellation Virgo, Borisov shimmered faintly, almost shyly, next to the brighter 3I Atlas. And then, a few degrees away in Leo, another comet glowed, K1 Atlas, with a golden tail that looked like a cosmic brushstroke, radiant and surreal. I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Here I was, a bloke from a tiny coastal town, observing these celestial wonders millions of miles away, feeling like I'd stepped into a sci-fi novel. The alignment of these three objects, Borisov, 3I Atlas, and K1 Atlas, was so precise it seemed choreographed, like the universe was putting on a show just for us. Scientists were buzzing about it too. Some called it a cosmic coincidence. Others whispered about a hidden cosmic law, a signal from the stars. Personally, I wondered if the universe was just messing with us, playing a cosmic prank. Maybe it was all just a giant celestial game of connect the dots. As the night wore on, I noticed Borisov's path traced above the ecliptic plane, almost perfectly aligned with Earth and 3I Atlas. The three of them formed a glowing axis of light, like a secret message written across the heavens. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the calm before a storm, a prelude to something far bigger than any of us could imagine. And then, just as I was packing up my gear, my phone buzzed. An alert from the local observatory. A massive solar storm was erupting on the far side of the sun, aimed right at 3I Atlas. The sunspots were furious, flinging radiation like a cosmic temper tantrum. Scientists predicted days of intense solar activity, and Borisov was right in the thick of it, skimming close to Venus's orbit. I shivered, not just from the cold. What if this alignment was no accident? What if the solar storms, the comets, and this strange smoky visitor were all part of a greater cosmic puzzle? I had a feeling that the answers were out there, somewhere between the stars, waiting for us to decipher. But as I looked up one last time before the clouds rolled in, I noticed something odd. A faint flicker near Borisov that hadn't been there before. A shimmer or maybe a shadow. Something that didn't belong. I rubbed my eyes. Perhaps I was imagining things. Or maybe, just maybe, the universe had just winked at me. The next morning, I woke to the kind of gray drizzle that makes you question why you ever thought the British weather was charming. But my mind was elsewhere, still tangled in the mystery of Borisov and its uncanny alignment with 3I Atlas and K1 Atlas. I brewed a strong cup of tea, the kind that could double as engine fuel, and sat by the window, watching the clouds crawl over Whitby's narrow streets. I decided I couldn't just be a passive spectator anymore. So, I packed my battered old laptop and my trusty telescope and headed to the local astronomy club meeting in the town hall. The place was a modest room with peeling wallpaper, a few folding chairs, and a cluster of passionate stargazers who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else but stuck under fluorescent lights. There, I met Dr. Claire Harper, the club's de facto leader. Claire was in her early 40s, with sharp green eyes that missed nothing and a smile that hinted she knew the universe's secrets but wasn't about to spill them easily. She was dressed in a fitted navy jacket, paired with sleek black jeans and boots that clicked with purpose on the wooden floor. A far cry from the stereotypical wild-haired scientist trope. Around her neck hung a delicate silver necklace shaped like a crescent moon, catching the light every time she moved. Claire greeted me with a knowing look. "You're the one following Borisov, aren't you? Heard the news?" I nodded, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. "Yeah, it's unusual. No tal, strange orbit. And then there's that golden comet, K1 Atlas. It's like the sky's putting on a show." She smirked. "More like the universe throwing a curveball. You know, these alignments aren't just pretty to look at. They can mess with our instruments, our predictions. Solar storms, gravitational pulls. It's a cosmic cocktail that could shake things up." I glanced at the other members, who were whispering about recent anomalies. GPS glitches, strange radio signals, even flickering streetlights around town. The kind of stuff you'd expect to see in a sci-fi flick, not in sleepy Whitby. Claire pulled up the latest data on her tablet. The image of Borisov was grainy, a ghostly smudge against the backdrop of stars, but the calculations were precise. Its path was definitely unusual, and its trajectory suggested it was climbing higher above the ecliptic plane than most comets we knew. "Most comets have tails because of the sun's heat vaporizing their ices," Claire explained. "Borisov barely has one. It's like a ghost ship, slipping through the solar system with barely a trace. And yet, it's glowing enough to make us sit up and take notice." I joked, "Maybe it's shy, you know, a celestial wallflower." She laughed, a sound that brightened the room. "Or maybe it's hiding something we don't understand yet." The conversation was interrupted by a sudden power flicker, the lights dimming for a heartbeat before snapping back. A collective murmur rippled through the room. "Solar storms getting closer," Claire said grimly. "And it's not just Borisov feeling the heat. Earth's magnetosphere is taking a beating. We might be in for some serious geomagnetic fireworks." I felt a shiver, this time not from the cold drizzle outside but from the weight of the unknown pressing down on us. The comets, the solar storms, the strange alignments, it all felt connected, like pieces of a cosmic jigsaw puzzle slipping just out of reach. Before I left, Claire handed me a printout of the orbital trajectories. "Keep your eyes on the sky on November 16th. That's when Borisov reaches perihelion, its closest point to the sun. If anything's going to happen, it'll be then." Outside, the rain had turned into a fine mist, blurring the edges of the world. As I walked back toward my flat, I couldn't shake the feeling that the universe was holding its breath, waiting for something big to unfold. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows between those drifting clouds, I sensed the flicker from last night wasn't just a trick of the light. It was a signal, a warning. What it meant, I had no idea, but I was determined to find out. That evening, the sky above Whitby cleared just enough for me to set up my telescope on the cliffside overlooking the North Sea. The salty breeze tugged at my jacket, carrying the faint scent of seaweed and something indefinably electric, like the air before a storm. I adjusted the lens, squinting into the eyepiece, trying to catch a better view of Borisov and its mysterious companions. The stars were pinpricks of frozen fire, scattered across the vast black canvas. Virgo stretched elegantly overhead, its familiar pattern framing Borisov's ghostly glow. Nearby, Leo's golden comet, K1 Atlas, shimmered with an otherworldly radiance, its tail a soft, flowing ribbon that seemed almost alive. The sight was hypnotic, a cosmic ballet that made me forget the chill creeping into my fingers. Suddenly, a flicker caught my eye, not among the stars, but closer. A glimmer, a subtle pulse of light near Borisov, as if the comet itself was breathing. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. The shimmer was definitely there, faint but persistent, like a heartbeat in the void. I half joked to myself, maybe Borisov's trying to send me a text. No answer, of course, just the cold silence of space. As I peered longer, the image shifted. The smoky cloud around Borisov seemed to thicken, then part, revealing a shape that didn't belong. It wasn't a natural formation, more like a geometric silhouette, angular and deliberate. A shadow within the shadow. My pulse quickened. Was I seeing things? Or had something just crossed the boundary between the known and the unknown? On a whim, I grabbed my phone and started recording, narrating my observations aloud. November 7th, Whitby. Borisov showing unusual light patterns. Possible artificial structure? Or optical illusion? Need to verify with more data. A sudden gust nearly knocked the telescope over, and I cursed under my breath. Space isn't making this easy, is it? Later that night, back in my cramped flat, I pulled up the latest images from the online astronomical databases. The grainy photos confirmed what I'd seen. A strange, faint outline near Borisov, something that shouldn't be there if this was just a run-of-the-mill comet. I messaged Claire Harper, attaching the clip. Her reply was quick and cryptic. Keep watching. Don't share this widely. If it's real, it changes everything. Couldn't help but smirk. Claire always did love a good mystery, but this was beyond our usual backyard stargazing. This was something that could rewrite the textbooks. The next day, I found myself wandering through the narrow streets of Whitby, the mist curling around the ancient stone buildings like a ghostly veil. I stopped by the local cafe, the Starry Mug, where the barista, a sharp-witted woman named Lucy, was busy pulling espresso shots. "Anything new in the sky, Dave?" she teased, sliding me a steaming cup. Lucy always had a knack for making the ordinary feel extraordinary, her bright red scarf a flash of rebellion against the dreary day. "More than new," I said, lowering my voice. "Borisov's showing signs. Well, unusual signs. Could be nothing. Or it could be the start of something big." She raised an eyebrow. "Big as in alien spaceships? Because if it is, I want front row seats. I've got popcorn ready." I laughed, but inside, a knot tightened. The universe was suddenly a lot less predictable, and I was smack in the middle of it. That night, as I lay awake listening to the wind howl outside, I couldn't shake the feeling that Borisov was watching us back, and whatever was hidden in its smoky cloak was waiting for its moment to reveal itself. The countdown to November 16th had begun. But what would happen when Borisov reached the sun? And why did I feel like the sky itself was holding a secret that was about to explode? The days that followed felt like watching a kettle about to boil. Every moment stretched taut with anticipation. Whitby's usual calm was fraying at the edges. Even the seagulls seemed restless, their cries sharper against the gray skies. I spent most evenings on the cliffs, telescope pointed skyward, wrapped in my worn leather jacket and a scarf that smelled faintly of damp wool and old books. On November 12th, I received an unexpected invitation to join a small research team at the University of Durham, just a couple of hours' drive away. They'd heard about my observations and wanted to see the footage and data firsthand. I wasn't exactly a professional astronomer, but sometimes curiosity and a good pair of eyes count for more than titles. Driving through the winding lanes of County Durham, the landscape shifted from rolling fields to Gothic spires and cobbled streets. The university's observatory, perched on a hilltop, was a sleek contrast to Whitby's weathered charm, modern, steel, and glass, humming softly with the pulse of computers and monitors. Inside the control room, I met Dr. Marcus Lane, a tall, intense man with salt and pepper hair and wire-rimmed glasses that caught the light every time he nodded thoughtfully. He wore a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing ink-stained forearms. A man clearly more at home with numbers than small talk. "Dave," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "We've been tracking Borisov for days, but your footage adds something new. That shimmer, the shape. There's definitely an anomaly." He gestured at the screens showing overlapping images from various telescopes. Borisov's smoky cloud flickered softly, but within it, a subtle, almost imperceptible pattern emerged, lines and angles that defied natural randomness. Some speculate it's a natural phenomenon, a rare interaction of solar winds and cometary material, Marcus continued, but I'm inclined to think it's something else, something structured. I glanced at the nearest monitor, where a simulation traced Borisov's orbit. It would reach perihelion in just 4 days, skimming perilously close to the sun. The energy it would encounter was unimaginable. Solar flares capable of frying satellites and turning the night sky into a kaleidoscope of auroras. Claire Harper was there too, her green eyes sharp and focused as ever. She caught my gaze and gave a small, reassuring smile. "This is bigger than any of us imagined," she said quietly. "If Borisov is more than a comet, November 16th might be the day we find out." Later, as we pored over data, Marcus explained a theory that sent a chill down my spine. If there's an artificial structure cloaked inside Borisov, the intense solar radiation could trigger it, activate something hidden. Think of it like a cosmic switch. Claire added, or a message waiting to be delivered. I tried to joke to break the tension. "So, you're telling me Borisov's like a cosmic birthday cake, and the sun's about to light the candles?" They both chuckled, but the weight of their words lingered. This wasn't just science fiction anymore. It was real, and I was caught in the eye of the storm. That night, driving back through the moonlit countryside, my mind raced with possibilities. What if Borisov wasn't a comet at all? What if it was a vessel, a beacon, or even a warning? I thought about the flicker I'd seen. Was it a signal? A plea? Or something far more dangerous? As I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed with an alert. A sudden surge of solar activity, stronger than anything recorded in recent years, was barreling straight toward Earth. The sky was about to change, and so was everything I thought I knew. That night, the sky seemed to hum with a restless energy, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Back in my Whitby flat, I sat by the window, the glow of my laptop casting flickering shadows across the room. Outside, the wind whispered secrets through the narrow alleys, rattling the loose panes of glass. I felt like a character in some cosmic thriller. Only the villain and the hero were both unknown. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, this time with an emergency alert from the UK Space Agency. A solar storm, far more intense than anticipated, was set to hit Earth within hours. The geomagnetic warning urged people to prepare for possible power outages, GPS disruptions, and interference with communication networks. I rubbed my tired eyes. Just as Borisov was approaching perihelion, the sun was unleashing its fury. The timing was either an incredible coincidence or something far more sinister. Outside, the streetlights flickered and dipped, casting the familiar seaside town into an eerie twilight. I grabbed my coat and headed outside, the damp chill clinging to my skin as I made my way to the cliffside. The sea below roared, its waves crashing like thunder against the rocks. I set up my telescope quickly, hands trembling. Not from the cold, but from adrenaline. The comet was visible, a smoky apparition against the ink-black sky. But tonight, Borisov seemed different. The faint shimmer I'd seen before was now a steady pulse, like a beacon in the void. As I adjusted the lens, I noticed something new. A thin, golden filament stretching from Borisov toward the sun, glowing faintly but unmistakably. It was like a cosmic thread, linking the two in a delicate dance. My breath caught. Was this the cosmic switch Claire and Marcus had warned about? Was Borisov responding to the sun's outburst? I fumbled for my phone to video the sight, narrating in a hushed voice. November 14th, Whitby Cliffside. Borisov emitting luminous filament toward the sun during solar storm onset. Possible energy exchange or signal transmission. Awaiting further developments. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled slightly. A subtle vibration, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. I glanced around, half expecting something to break through the night silence. Instead, the stars blinked in quiet response, as if acknowledging the moment. Later, back inside, I scoured online forums and news feeds. Reports were pouring in from around the world. Satellite anomalies, brief power blackouts, strange radio bursts. Scientists scrambled to understand the sudden spike in solar activity, but no one was connecting the dots to Borisov yet. I messaged Claire. Her reply was terse. "This is bigger than we thought. Keep your eyes open. And stay safe." My thoughts drifted to the golden comet, K1 Atlas, basking in Leo's constellation. Its radiant tail seemed almost like a counterpoint to Borison's eerie glow. Were these celestial dancers part of the same cosmic symphony? Or were they just players in an unfolding drama beyond our control? As midnight approached, I stared up one last time. The filament between Borison and the sun pulsed brighter, casting an ethereal glow across the sea mist. Then, in a flash that rivaled the lightning streaking across distant clouds, Borison seemed to shudder, like a breath held too long, and then it vanished, gone.
No smoke, no shimmer, no trace.
I blinked, heart pounding. Had I imagined it? Or had Borison just sent a message we were too small to decode? One thing was certain. The universe wasn't done with us yet. And neither was Borison. The morning after Borison's disappearance, Whitby woke to a strange stillness, like the calm hanging over the ocean just before a storm breaks. The usual chatter in the cafe was subdued, whispers replacing the usual banter. Even the seagulls seemed quieter, circling lazily without their usual raucous cries. I shuffled outside, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, and headed straight for the cliffs. The sky was a muted wash of pale gray, the sun a faint glow struggling to pierce the morning haze. I set up my telescope again, scanning the sky for any sign of Borison or its elusive companions. Nothing. The spot where Borison had been was empty, just a faint smudge of stardust fading into the void. It was as if the comet had simply evaporated into the cosmos, leaving behind a trail of questions. Back at my flat, messages flooded in from Claire and Marcus. Their voices were tight with urgency. Borison's disappearance coincides with a spike in solar radiation levels, Claire wrote. Our instruments are picking up unusual electromagnetic signatures near Venus's orbit. Could be debris or something else. Marcus's message was even more cryptic. We're analyzing data from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Early results suggest an object or a fragment might have broken off from Borison during perihelion. But the readings are inconsistent. Inconsistent. That word stuck with me like a splinter under the skin. Later that afternoon, I met Claire at the observatory in Durham. She was pacing, her usual calm replaced by restless energy. She wore a fitted black leather jacket over a dark emerald blouse, her hair pulled back in a loose bun that revealed a slender neck adorned with the crescent moon necklace I'd come to associate with secrets. We're seeing fragments, she said, eyes bright with a mix of excitement and worry. But they don't behave like typical comet debris. Their trajectories are erratic, almost deliberate. I frowned. Deliberate? You mean controlled? Claire shrugged. We don't know yet, but it's enough to make us rethink everything. That evening, as I drove home through winding country lanes under a silver sliver of moon, my mind churned. If Borison was more than a comet, what had happened during perihelion? Had it released something? Or transformed? Pulling into my driveway, I noticed my phone buzzing with a news alert. Widespread GPS outages reported across Europe. Airlines were rerouting flights, and power grids were fluctuating unpredictably. A chill ran down my spine. The solar storm wasn't done with us. I stepped inside, flipping on the news. The anchor's voice was tense, reporting on unexplained anomalies in satellite data. Signals that some experts suggested could be artificial in origin. I poured myself a drink, the amber liquid catching the dim light. Tonight, the universe felt less like a vast, indifferent expanse and more like a tightly woven tapestry. One with threads we were only beginning to see. And somewhere within that tapestry, Borison's mystery was pulling me deeper. As I stared out the window into the encroaching night, a sudden flicker caught my eye, a distant, pulsing light just beyond the horizon. It was faint, rhythmic, almost like a beacon calling across the darkness. I swallowed hard. Borison wasn't gone. It was waiting. That pulsing light haunted me all night. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was a signal. Something deliberate, coded, waiting for us to catch on. By dawn, I was back on the cliffs, wrapped in layers against the biting wind, scanning the horizon with my binoculars and telescope. The sea stretched endlessly before me, a restless, churning mirror to the darkening sky. The light flickered again, this time clearer, a slow, steady rhythm, almost like Morse code. I pulled out my phone and started to record, trying to map the pattern. As I pored over the footage, the realization dawned. This wasn't random. It was a message. I called Claire immediately. "I think Borison's trying to communicate," I said, breathless. "There's a signal, pulsing light near the horizon." She was silent for a long moment. "Dave, if that's true, we're looking at something unprecedented. An interstellar object sending signals to Earth. This could change everything." Together, we spent the day trying to decode the light's rhythm, comparing it with known cosmic signals and ancient communication codes. Nothing matched perfectly, but the pattern hinted at intelligence, something designed, purposeful. That evening, I attended a lecture at Durham University, where astrophysicist Dr. Amelia Cross presented recent findings on the solar storms and their strange resonance with Borison's orbit. Amelia was striking, tall, with sharp features and piercing blue eyes that seemed to dissect every word spoken. She wore a flowing dark green dress that caught the light with every movement, her confidence filling the room like a force of nature. Her voice was calm but urgent. "What we're witnessing may be a cosmic phenomenon unlike any other. The alignment of Borison, 3I Atlas, and K1 Atlas, combined with the solar activity, suggests a resonance, a cosmic event possibly engineered or influenced by an intelligence beyond our reach." I felt a chill. Was I witnessing the dawn of a new age, or the prelude to something far more dangerous? After the lecture, I caught Amelia alone in the hallway. "Do you think Borison is alive?" I asked, half joking. She smiled wryly. "Alive? Maybe not in the way we understand life. But it's certainly active. And it's trying to tell us something." Back outside, the night sky glittered with stars, but my eyes were fixed on the horizon. The pulsing light had returned, brighter now, weaving a tapestry of signals across the darkness. As I watched, a sudden flash streaked across the sky. A meteor, or perhaps something else, burning bright with a golden tail that rivaled K1 Atlas. It exploded in a burst of light, showering the atmosphere with shimmering fragments. The crowd nearby gasped, but I felt a strange calm. The universe was speaking, and for once I was listening. Yet, beneath the wonder, a question gnawed at me. Was this message a greeting, a warning, or an invitation into a cosmic game whose stakes we could barely comprehend? And somewhere deep in the shadows of space, Borison waited, its secrets still unfolding. The next morning, Whitby woke under a sky smeared with pink and gold, but the town felt strangely subdued, as if everyone sensed the invisible threads pulling tighter around us. I wandered through the narrow streets, the damp cobblestones glistening beneath my boots, my mind tangled with questions and half-formed theories. Borison's signal pulsing like a heartbeat on the horizon, that mysterious meteor shower painting the sky with fire, and the relentless solar storms all seemed pieces of a puzzle I couldn't quite solve. At the local library, a charming old building with arched windows and shelves heavy with dusty tomes, I met with Lucy, the barista from the Starry Mug, who had unexpectedly taken an interest in my cosmic escapades. She was wearing a soft cream sweater that hugged her slender frame and jeans worn at the knees, her auburn hair pulled into a loose braid that spilled over her shoulder. There was a spark in her eyes, a mix of curiosity and excitement that was contagious. "You're not the only one wondering what the universe is up to," she said, flipping through a book on celestial phenomena. "Did you hear about the strange power surges last night? Some folks say their radios picked up weird static, almost like music." I grinned. "Yeah, I've been chasing signals all week. Borison's got a way of making things interesting." We spent hours poring over old star charts and astronomical records, trying to find any historical echoes of what we were witnessing. Somewhere between the pages, a pattern emerged, ancient accounts of celestial alignments coinciding with strange lights in the sky and bursts of electromagnetic energy, legends of sky messengers, and heavenly harbingers that sounded eerily familiar. Later, I returned to the cliffside just as twilight deepened, the sea wind tangling my hair and the horizon glowing faintly again with that rhythmic pulse. This time I wasn't alone. A small crowd had gathered, locals drawn by curiosity, their faces lit by the eerie light. Among them was Claire, her green eyes reflecting the signal's glow, and Amelia Cross, who was busy setting up sensitive equipment to capture the phenomenon. Claire caught my eye and nodded. We're closer than ever. The patterns evolving more complex, like a language. Amelia added, it's not just light. We're picking up subtle shifts in the magnetic field, almost like a heartbeat synced with the pulses. As the night deepened, the signal grew stronger, weaving a tapestry of light and energy that danced across the sky. It was hypnotic, beautiful, and deeply unsettling. Suddenly, the ground trembled, this time stronger, unmistakable. The crowd gasped, clutching each other as the earth seemed to pulse beneath our feet. A brilliant flash erupted from the horizon, illuminating the sea in a golden blaze. Then, as quickly as it came, the light vanished, leaving only a lingering warmth and a sky scattered with glittering fragments falling like cosmic rain. I stood there, heart pounding, caught between awe and fear. The message was clear: Borisov was no ordinary visitor. But what did it want? And what would happen next? As the crowd began to disperse, Claire whispered, we've opened a door. Now we have to decide if we're ready to step through. And high above, the stars watched silently, their secrets waiting to be revealed. The days after the luminous event felt surreal, like waking from a dream where reality had shifted just enough to make everything familiar feel strange. Whitby's streets buzzed with nervous energy, whispers of the cosmic rain, and the mysterious signal spreading like wildfire. Scientists scrambled to analyze the data, while locals speculated wildly: alien contact, government experiments, or a message from the stars. I found myself back at the Durham Observatory, surrounded by screens casting a cool blue glow in the dim room. Claire and Amelia were there, poring over the latest readings from multiple satellites and ground-based sensors. Their expressions were a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Borisov's fragments are behaving unpredictably, Claire said, pointing to a swirling cluster on the monitor. Some pieces are accelerating, others slowing down. It's as if they're responding to something, maybe even communicating with each other. Amelia leaned closer. And the magnetic disturbances, they're intensifying. We're detecting pulses that resemble a complex code, layered over the solar storm data. I rubbed my temples. So, it's not just a coincidence. Borisov and the solar storms. They're connected. Claire nodded. More than connected. They're part of a system, a resonance we've never seen before. The room fell silent, the weight of discovery settling over us like a thick fog. Later, I met with Lucy again at the Starry Mug. She was animated, her eyes sparkling as she recounted stories she'd heard from fishermen and sailors. Tales of strange lights, sudden equipment failures, and eerie melodies carried on the wind. It's like the whole town's caught in a cosmic web, she said, swirling her tea thoughtfully. And we're the flies. I chuckled, but the unease lingered. That night, I returned to the cliffs alone, the sea whispering secrets beneath a sky dripping with stars. The pulsing signal had returned, stronger and more insistent. As I watched, a sudden burst of light exploded near the horizon, painting the waves in fiery gold. But this time something new happened. A shadow detached itself from the glow, a sleek, metallic shape silhouetted against the light. It moved with purpose, cutting through the darkness like a knife. My breath caught. Was it a ship, a probe, or something else entirely? Before I could react, the object vanished, swallowed by the night. I stumbled back, heart racing. The universe had just dropped a new piece on the board, and the game was changing fast. As I looked up, the constellation Virgo shimmered overhead, where Borisov had first appeared. The stars seemed to pulse in rhythm with the fading signal, as if the cosmos itself was alive and watching. And somewhere, out there in the vastness, the answer waited just beyond reach. But one thing was clear: whatever was coming, it wasn't done with us yet. The sky was keeping its secrets. For now. The following morning dawned cold and clear, the kind of brittle light that sharpens every shadow and edge. Whitby felt suspended between two worlds, the ordinary and the extraordinary. News outlets buzzed with speculation. Scientists raced to interpret the latest data, and the townsfolk whispered about the strange metallic silhouette I'd seen the night before. Back at Durham's observatory, the atmosphere was electric. Claire, Amelia, and I gathered around a sprawling digital map of the solar system. The trajectories of Borisov's fragments glowed ominously, weaving intricate, almost deliberate patterns through space. It was as if the pieces were choreographed dancers in a silent ballet. "Whatever that object was last night," Claire said, her voice steady but charged with urgency. "It's tied to Borisov's remnants. We're likely witnessing an extraterrestrial presence, deliberate, intelligent, and maybe even sentient." Amelia added, "The solar storms aren't random either. The resonance effect we're seeing suggests they're part of a communication system or a warning." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of those words settle over me like a shroud. The universe, vast and indifferent for so long, was suddenly anything but. Later, returning to Whitby, I walked to the cliffs alone under a sky streaked with twilight hues. The sea below roared softly, the wind tugging at my coat as I gazed upward. The stars above held secrets older than time itself, but now they also held questions we were desperate to answer. A sudden vibration thrummed through the ground, a low, steady pulse echoing the rhythm of the mysterious signal. I looked out to the horizon, where the faint glow of Borisov's last known position lingered like a fading ember. Then, without warning, the night exploded in a cascade of light. A brilliant aurora borealis danced across the sky, rippling in waves of green and gold, painting the heavens with ethereal beauty. The crowd that had gathered below gasped in awe, their faces illuminated by the celestial spectacle. And amidst the shimmering curtains of light, a final message flashed. A sequence of symbols, glowing briefly before vanishing into the night. Claire's voice trembled as she read aloud from her tablet. "It's a sequence, coordinates, an invitation." The crowd fell silent, the enormity of the moment sinking in. I felt a shiver run down my spine. The universe wasn't just watching anymore, it was reaching out. And somewhere beyond the stars, Borisov's secret waited to be unveiled. The question was no longer if we were alone, but what would we do when we finally met whoever or whatever was sending the signal? As the aurora faded and the night returned to quiet, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The cosmos had opened its door, and we had no choice but to step through.